1978 blizzard. What do you remember about that, and how did your dad have to deal? What did your dad have to deal with as the mayor during that?
That was the blizzard of the ages. And I was up at IU, and we got hit with the same thing. Seemed like just a mountain of snow, foot of snow, record breaking. And then it seemed like an Arctic air mass came in. It was just bitter cold. So I know in the city they had snow emergencies where they had emergency days. You weren't allowed on the road. And I think it was like only police and National Guard and things like that. Up at IU at that time, there was even, to make things worse, there was a coal strike, and the IU power plants were powered by coal. And I know when we would go to the business school, there was always a huge pile of coal behind the power plant. Well, this pile went to nothing, and then they ran out. So they actually dismissed school for like a month until they get their stockpiles back up, and we ended up having to go Saturday, which all the students hated. We went back. But just remember very bitter cold. I remember it was hard to get vehicles around because the snow was so deep, and we did a lot of walking. Even up at IU, we would we would walk to liquor stores, or whoever had whoever was 21 go in and buy it. But seemed like a lot of people, it was so cold that transportation became very primitive. It was either walking or cars were not made that, front wheel drive wasn't as prevalent back then, so cars were getting stuck all the time. It seemed like you'd run out there and help people with the cars getting stuck. But pretty difficult. And I don't think anybody was ready for it. It just kind of descended on us and socked the city. And it seemed like that whole winter was just bitterly cold and all that snow to move around. Terrible.
Do you remember, did you talk to your dad during the blizzard? And do you remember anything about what the city had to deal with, or if not?
I remember him saying snow emergencies, or that they had to declare a state of emergency and get people off the streets and things like that. So, I think, his leadership skills, he took charge in that way. And I'm thinking they had to have the National Guard down here. I could be wrong, but I think they did patrolling the streets or whatever, just because it was so bad. And maybe even, making sure that people didn't freeze to death and things like that. So the city was a lot different back then. You didn't have the expressways, so it was more, division street cutting through the middle. A lot of these small shotgun houses and things. I know there was fatalities. I don't remember how many, but just a real tough time. I'm sure, for people keeping warm, gasoline, alcohol sales had to be way up. So, but it seemed like we dealt with the same thing in Bloomington, and it was just a real difficult time.
What about 1982 and the windstorm, the June 8th storm?
Right. At that time, I was working at, now it's Fifth Third Bank. Back then it was Citizens National Bank, and I was working in the main office downtown, so that's the 15-story tower. And it came in around lunch, and I remember the windows up there looking out. It was just a very weird sky, like green and purple, and people standing at the windows looking. So, oh my God, look at this thing. Weather radios and things maybe weren't as prevalent, but that came in, and that building, and the building obviously was made that way, but we felt it shake. All the silverware was jingling, and so they had some kind of intercom or something, said, evacuate all top floors, go down to designated like storm areas. And so I know ours was down on the first floor, kind of in the middle of the building. So we took the stairs, and I know there were some employees that foolishly took the elevators, which they got stuck. They had to get them out between floors. But it tore. I know, like there was a Morris Plan, which was an old savings and loan. Their building had been sided, and they just tore the siding off like it was cardboard and pulled it off, sent it down the street. All kinds of damage, things blown, torn down, trees just snapped. Don't know the exact number, but I'm sure 70, 80 mile an hour winds. And the weird thing was that it descended right in the middle of downtown, so you had all this damage downtown, which normally these kind of storms, you see them on the outer areas of a metro area. So, but it was horrifying, and I know power was out for quite a long time. At our house on Washington, I was still living at home at the time. We didn't have power, and it seemed like we had to ration water. A lot of people were going to friends' houses or relatives' houses to shower and do things like that. So it was really kind of a difficult situation because all those power lines were down. It seemed like it was, a month or two before they got a lot of the power back on, which was really pretty hard on people.
Do you remember driving home that night? And I know that there were trees down everywhere on the roads. Did you have any problems?
Don't remember, other than I know all the lights were out and it was all like four-way stops and things like that. But it was like a war zone. I mean, it was terrible. Just all kinds of debris everywhere, things blown all over.
Anything else you want to say about that?
No, I mean, it was kind of, I guess nowadays you'd call it a microburst or a macroburst or something like that. But it was the strongest windstorm we had for many years, until maybe the tornadoes that came in later in 2000, 2005. But certainly, a lot of downtown building signs were blown off, and maybe it caused some of the businesses to maybe build things a little more sturdy or whatever for those kind of things.